Hello and welcome back to the video series for world history. Today we're going to start topic four, and we're looking at two major events in world history in topic four. We're going to look at the Renaissance, which was an intellectual and artistic movement, and the Reformation, which was a religious movement. It's not mentioned in the title, but we're also going to cover the scientific revolution, which was a natural outgrowth of some of the things that happened during the Renaissance and the Reformation. So, lesson one, we're going to look at the Renaissance from where it began with the Italian Renaissance. So the Renaissance, you're going to find different dates depending upon which textbook and who you talk to, but roughly the Renaissance is going to run from 1300 to 1600. Um, yeah, you're going to get variations, but that's what we're going to go with here. This is a transitional period. It's where basically the medieval period is ending and the modern period is beginning. So you're going to see a lot of the things that we've been talking about in previous topics, like the growth of cities and towns. That's still going to be a major event that's going on. Trade is continuing to expand, and people are beginning to look outside of Europe. They're beginning to expand their horizons with, trade and with travel, and they're on the verge of starting to globally begin to expand and colonize and to exploit things. Um, the Renaissance was a movement that is a lot of different things, and so it's kind of hard to pin down. But basically, what the Renaissance is doing is looking at the richness and variety of how human beings express themselves and do things. It is largely a secular movement, which means that the focus of the Renaissance was largely in this world, although ironically, much of their artwork and expression is religious in nature. It is a moment where people begin to examine the individual and begin to look at what the individual can accomplish rather than, as a part of a whole. The idea that a person could become an expert in many, many different things. The concept of the Renaissance man, which is still a term that we use today for someone that has a remarkably wide range of things that they can do. And there's a new spirit of curiosity that people have in the world. They want to examine the old world and see how people in the past did things. And at the same time, they're looking forward to a new world and what the possibilities are, which is one of the things that gave birth to the sciences. The philosophy that guides humanism, or the Renaissance rather, is humanism. So just like scholasticism was the main philosophy of the medieval period, humanism is the main guiding philosophy for the Renaissance period. The first person to really begin to do this, which is to start to look at old Greek and Roman manuscripts to rediscover what people in the past thought about things and how they wrote, was a man named Petrarch. So he gets the credit. He's often called the founder or father of humanism. And so his writings sort of formed the basis of what later writers were going to do. He particularly is noted for inventing the sonnet, which is a particular type of organization of a poetry. It's a poetic form. So we'll look a little bit at that, when we get to talk about Petrarch. Um, so humanism was about looking at classical manuscripts, the Greeks and the Romans, and what they had to write about. It was largely a secular approach to things because the ancient world did not really focus so much on the next life, it focused on this one. It looks at the creative powers that people have and what they can create. And there begins to be a body of courses, things that people study when they look at the humanities. History actually is one of those things, but grammar, rhetoric, and poetry are some of the other things. So the Renaissance starts in Italy. That's kind of ground zero for this movement. It's where Roman civilization was centered. Towns had survived in greater numbers as a result of the fall of Rome there than any other place. So commerce starts to revive there first. The main centers are going to be Florence, Venice and Rome, Milan up in the northern part of Italy. And you start to see a rising middle class of merchants who are becoming very, very wealthy, and they want to find ways to express this wealth, to kind of show off a little bit. So they become the patrons of this movement. There's also connections with the Muslim world, with the Byzantine world, which gives them a lot of the ideas that they're expounding upon and running with in this time period. Um, Artwork is a hallmark of the Renaissance. So there's painting, there's sculpture, there's architecture, there's literature that abounds here. One of the things that you're going to see with this artwork is going back to Greek and Roman models, this classical theme. So buildings are going to look like Roman temples, Roman buildings. Um, they're going to start to look at perspective. How do you make a painting look like it has depth? So a two-dimensional artwork looks three-dimensional. They begin to focus on the anatomy of the human body and to be able to accurately portray the human body. And you start to see portraiture. You start to see people being painted as individuals for the first time. So there's several different artists that we're going to be looking at over the course of lesson one. So I'm not going to go into a lot of detail here because you're going to be reading about it. We're going to be looking at pictures, but we're going to look at major sculpture this time period, Donatello. One of the greatest people involved with architecture in this time period is Brunelleschi, who designed the dome of Florence's cathedral. With painting, we're going to look at three of the big figures with the Italian Renaissance: Leonardo da Vinci, Michelangelo, and Raphael. Paired with Donatello, you have the Ninja Turtles. And we're going to look at a few examples of literature from the Renaissance period with Baldassare Castiglione's Book of the Courtier and Machiavelli's The Prince. So we'll go into a little bit more detail with those. You do have some details within your reading. So please definitely read and go over this as well. This concludes lesson one. As always, if you have questions, email me or bring them up in class, and I will see you later for lesson two. Thank you, and bye-bye.